embarrassing the commentators on Ion Sports. Yo, when I say they were disrespecting Caitlin with this list, look at this list, man. Caitlin Clark has more points than Paige Beckers, more assists than Paige Beckers, more points than Olivia Miles, and more assists than Olivia Miles. And they don't have her on the list. They have these players instead on the list.
It is insane to think about how Caitlin Clark will likely never get MVP in the W because it's voted on by the media. Most fans think that it's decided on by the league or logically stats, but it isn't. MVP is voted on by a panel of sports writers and broadcasters after the regular season. And who is without a doubt the best player in the league right now? Caitlin Clark.
These better numbers than these players, while dealing with restriction minutes, like minutes restrictions. She's dealing with the coach not liking her like that. Like, I don't know what's going on with this organization, but she's finally coming around and allowing Caitlin to play with her shooting guard and allowing Kelsey Mitchell to have her point guard. And look what's happening.
There is a number making the rounds right now that becomes harder to understand every time you look at it. Caitlin Clark is producing some of the strongest all-around basketball of her career. Yet when the MVP discussion begins, she somehow does not appear anywhere inside the top 5. She is not sitting 4th or 5th, and she is not even hovering near the edge of the conversation. If hearing that made you pause and wonder how that could possibly be true, you are having the same reaction as thousands of fans online. Timelines are filling with screenshots of MVP rankings placed directly beside Clark's season statistics because people feel like they need visual proof that this is really happening.
You gotta be one of the, bro, I've been watching the WNBA for the last 20 years. You're new here type people if you don't think Caitlin Clark should be in the MVP race, right? Paige Beckers, Olivia Miles, Caitlin Clark, bro, they're running the WNBA. I don't care if somebody's been there and they're 75 years old and they're the starting power forward for, the Portland Fire, Phoenix, whatever. I don't care. I don't care how long you've been there. It's about who's good. That's why the NBA is that way. That's why you have players coming in that are 21 years old playing over the 30-year-old guy. It doesn't matter who's been there longer. It's about who's better. Who's selling? Who do I want to go watch play? I don't want to go watch Harriet Tubman make layups. No. I want to watch Candace Parker dunk on somebody, right? I want to see literally Anne Frank hitting step backs. Like, that's what I want to see. I don't know. There's a lot of weird people out here.
That is where this entire situation begins. It did not start with some explosive scandal or a heated television argument. It started with an ordinary ranking, a straightforward list supposedly identifying the league's best players this season, and Caitlin Clark was nowhere to be found. The longer you think about that absence, the less it feels like a harmless mistake. What initially looks like one questionable omission quickly becomes something that deserves a much closer examination. Caitlin Clark
has absolutely been dominating, and it's crazy she's not in the MVP conversation. During the month of July, she's averaging 22-7 on damn near 50, 40, 90 splits. Not to mention, she's also top 5 in points and assists in the W. I'm letting you guys know right now, if you are top 5 in points and assists in any other basketball league in the world, it is impossible not to be in MVP conversation. During the live broadcast last night, the WNBA put out the MVP race graphic. And it is crazy how she isn't even mentioned. They didn't even bring her up for any type of consideration. I really don't know what type of agenda is being pushed towards Caitlin and why she's not getting...
Begin with what Clark is actually doing during games, because that is what makes her exclusion so difficult to explain. She is scoring efficiently, creating offense at an elite level, and piling up assists while dealing with more defensive pressure and physical attention than almost any other player in the league. These are not empty statistics collected after games have already been decided. Her production is coming in competitive matchups, where every possession matters, and playoff positioning is directly affected. When someone performs at that level and still gets quietly removed from the rankings, the obvious question is what these voters are truly evaluating, because the answer clearly cannot be limited to what is happening on the basketball court.
Caitlin Clark goes for a triple-double last night, and all the haters can complain about it, say, oh, they gifted her an assist in the last 30 seconds that she was stat padding, blase, blase, blase. Listen, last night on the Ion Network, they put out a top 5 MVP race, and in this game is Caitlin Clark, and they don't have Caitlin Clark listed amongst the top 5. Their top 5 people were A'ja Wilson, Olivia Miles, Paige Beckers, Kelsey Mitchell, and Breanna Stewart. And you're sitting here right now, and Caitlin Clark is in the midst of having a triple-double. She finishes with 26 points, 10 assists, and 10 rebounds. She has shot 56% from the floor over the last 5 games, 29 points and 9 assists. She is currently having a season that has never, ever been done before in the history of the WNBA, averaging over 21 points and 7 assists per game. And yet somehow she's not included amongst the top 6 or top 5 MVP candidates per Ion. The hate is real.
Consider how MVP debates normally operate across every major sport. Voters examine individual production, influence on winning, and the difference in a team's performance when that player is on the floor compared with when she is unavailable. Clark has a legitimate argument under essentially all of those standards, strong enough that people should not have to constantly explain why she belongs in the discussion. Yet that is exactly what is happening. Fans are being forced to build the case from the ground up, because her numbers, impact, and importance apparently are still not sufficient to earn her a place in the conversation this season.
Caitlin Clark, 26, 10, and 10. 26, 10, and 10. And y'all know what makes me understand that the commentators didn't know what they were talking about? What lets me know that they didn't know what they were talking about? They said this is her first triple-double. What are you talking about, man? This is not her first triple-double. All right? Absolutely ridiculous, man. This league is so pathetic, man. I can't. The politics that are played within this league, like, just allow this girl to shine, huh? Mind you, she's putting up these better numbers than these players while dealing with restriction minutes.
This is the part that becomes especially aggravating. Turn on almost any studio panel discussing MVP ballots, and you will hear the same group of names delivered with complete certainty, as though the order has already been settled and no serious disagreement could exist. Then the segment ends without Clark being mentioned even once. She is not introduced as a controversial candidate, brought up as an honorable mention, or included so the panel can explain why others rank above her. Her name is simply erased from the discussion, almost as though everyone involved decided before the cameras started that she would not be part of the segment. When that pattern repeats week after week, calling it an accidental oversight becomes increasingly difficult. Eventually, it begins to resemble an intentional choice.
WNBA and especially Caitlin Clark fans are very upset with the current standing of the WNBA MVP race. And when you see the way she's been hooping lately, you can understand why. And it's making them more upset that a player on her team, Kelsey Mitchell, and not Caitlin, is in the MVP race. We gotta understand, Kelsey is averaging 24 points. I do also understand what Caitlin's been doing. So over Caitlin's last 5 games, she's been averaging 29, 9, and 4, 2 steals, and a block. So now she's playing defense on stupid efficiency, averaging 56 from the field, 49 from the three-point line, and 91 from the free throw line. I've been saying this about Caitlin Clark since she's actually gotten into the league. If she brings her turnover rating down, and if she becomes more efficient and consistent, she will be a top 5 player in the league without a doubt. And it's not even going to be a discussion if she can keep this up. And in her last game, she put up 26, 10, and 10. A 26-point triple-double. She has the most triple-doubles in...
At the very least, you would expect one analyst somewhere to mention Clark, and then argue that she does not deserve inclusion. Even that would create an actual basketball debate. Instead, she is not being considered and rejected after discussion. She is being excluded before the discussion even starts. It feels less like the voters evaluated her case, and more like they decided the subject itself should be avoided. When a player producing at this level is ignored repeatedly by different analysts, programs, and networks, the explanation that it is all random coincidence becomes nearly impossible to accept.
Apparent. How can you have a top 5 MVP vote going on, or 10 top 5 MVP candidates according to Ion Network, which is obviously produced by the WNBA, and not have Caitlin Clark listed in that top 5? She's doing something that's never been done. You can hate on her all you want. But she averages more points and assists than Olivia Miles and Paige Beckers and Breanna Stewart and Kelsey Mitchell in terms of assists. She averages more points than Olivia Miles, Paige Beckers, and Breanna Stewart. She's 3rd in the league in scoring, 2nd in the league in assists. And she's not an MVP candidate? She's not in consideration? What are we doing here? At some point, I mean, are you ever going to give this young woman some respect? No one is sitting here saying disrespect these other players. Not at all. But if you don't think she's a top 5 contender for the MVP, and she's on the floor, and she's averaging 21.5 and 8 assists a game, you might want to just add a 6th person to that list, because
fans have already started running the comparisons themselves. because the people paid to analyze the league apparently were not interested in doing it. When Clark's efficiency, playmaking, and overall impact are placed beside the numbers of players regularly described as guaranteed top 5 candidates, her case holds up extremely well and sometimes looks stronger. That is not simply an emotional fan base protecting its favorite player. It is what the available evidence shows when the statistics are compared directly instead of treating someone else's ranking as unquestionable truth. Once those side-by-side numbers are visible, leaving Clark out no longer appears to be an innocent mistake. It begins to look like a deliberate selection.
And then the WNBA will never let Caitlin Clark win an MVP because how is she not even top 5? And that's no disrespect to any of the people up here because everybody's hooping. But the way that Caitlin Clark gets talked about, like the stats that you see, it don't really add up when you look at who's getting the awards. Just last night, triple-double, 26 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. She has the most triple-doubles by a guard in WNBA history already. Tied the record for 20-point triple-double, 17th game with 20 points and 10 assists. No other player has more than 10. And that player isn't top.
What makes the situation even more remarkable is the amount of work ordinary fans have needed to do just to make this information visible. These people do not have television budgets, research departments, or professional graphics teams supporting them. They are searching through box scores, calculating comparisons, and designing their own visual breakdowns because the broadcasters covering the league have failed to present the same evidence on air. The fact that viewers must perform the analysis themselves reveals how little serious scrutiny these official MVP rankings are receiving. Is Caitlin Clark truly going to be excluded from the MVP race despite producing better basketball than several players ranked above her? And if this kind of treatment continues year after year, can anyone honestly claim the decision is still based purely on performance, or is another factor shaping the conversation?
Now, when it comes to the players, put in Caitlin Clark at number 11. 11 guard! This is how they feel about it. They cannot stand the fucking coverage, the money that she brought to this league. They cannot stand it. And they're showing you right here with your own 2 eyes. You see this shit. You see it. You see how they feel. Not only about her, Kelsey Plum at number 12 right behind her. The 2 ladies responsible for the most points per game in the WNBA are 11 and 12. As guards, we're not talking about the totality of players. We're just talking about guards.
There is also a larger pattern that many people have been reluctant to address openly. This is far from the first occasion when Clark's achievements have been reduced, qualified, or quietly pushed aside. Look back across the season and you will notice praise that always seems cautious, compliments that arrive with an immediate criticism attached, and analysis that searches for an asterisk every time she accomplishes something impressive. When she scores 30 points, the focus shifts toward whether she took the right shots instead of recognizing the scoring performance itself. When she records 10 assists in a victory, the conversation becomes about whether her teammates are receiving enough recognition rather than acknowledging what she created. With other stars, a great game is allowed to remain a great game. With Clark, praise almost always comes with a counter-argument, as though speaking positively about her without adding a warning label would somehow be unacceptable.
After Friday night's masterclass from Caitlin Clark in Portland, it's time to address the elephant in the room. Like it or lump it, Caitlin Clark deserves to be in the MVP conversation. In Friday night's 112-98 win over the Portland Fire, Fever guard Caitlin Clark had her 4th career triple-double. That's the most by any guard in WNBA history. Iowa's own had 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists. It gives the Fever a 5-game winning streak, and it's a 5-game heater that Caitlin Clark has dominated in. She's averaging up towards 30 points per game, 149 minutes, 148 points. It all started with that 45-point, 10-assist insanity show against the Seattle Storm that Clark boasted in a 110-107 win. And this past month of July was insane for Clark, averaging 22.6 points per game and 7.5 assists per contest in just 27 minutes of work. Pulled from OptaStats, Clark is the first player in either the NBA or the WNBA to have in a 5-game span 140 plus points, 40 plus assists, 50 plus made free throws, along with shooting 50% from the field, 40% from deep, and 90% from the stripe, all while going.
The difference extends beyond statistical discussions. Pay attention to how physical contact involving Clark is described, compared with similar contact involving other players. She gets hit across the body, held while attacking the basket, or knocked off her path, and instead of examining the punishment she absorbs every night, the conversation somehow turns toward whether she is making the contact appear worse than it was. Through all of that, she stands back up, continues competing, and still produces elite numbers. That resilience should strengthen an MVP argument rather than being dismissed as irrelevant. That framing is completely reversed. In almost any other league, an athlete maintaining exceptional performance while enduring constant physical pressure would be celebrated for toughness. Here, the same circumstances somehow become another reason to question her.
But the more we get to catch these glimpses of Caitlin Clark, I'm like, ooh, I don't like you. I don't like how you behave on the court and the leading you to be its superstar, because you are. And with leadership comes certain responsibility. And
just in case if you're confused, this is what racism looks like. I don't like how you behave on the court. Let's be honest right now. Caitlin Clark is the greatest thing to happen to the WNBA since the NBA decided to be their welfare daddies. Caitlin Clark's the only reason any of you Don Imuses are going to make any money later in life. You don't know who Don Imus is, look it up. Rutgers basketball. Anyway, like, the hatred y'all have for this white woman needs to be studied. And all she's doing is throwing up threes on you. Schwack 'em, schwack 'em. You might as well see each three she shoots as a whip. Skedaddle. Hatred.
More people are finally saying publicly what they previously discussed only in private. Former players, supporters, and even certain members of the media are acknowledging that the coverage simply does not make sense. Clark is being judged under a standard that does not appear to apply to anyone else posting similar production. When she dominates, her success is presented as expected rather than extraordinary. When she goes through a difficult stretch, it immediately becomes a major narrative about whether she is declining. There seems to be no outcome in which she receives the same treatment normally given to a player with her level of influence and statistical output. Once that inconsistency becomes visible, it cannot easily be ignored. What began as isolated frustration from scattered fans is now turning into a league-wide discussion because people with legitimate basketball experience
just try to navigate it the best I can. It gets exhausting, it gets frustrating. I think there's just like a false characterization of who I am sometimes. And I get it, as a reporter or as a blogger, you can write an opinion piece and that's your job. But at the same time, don't make accusations about my character and who I am when you don't know me. This was always my dream, and nobody should ever try to take that away from me.
Throughout all of this, Clark has not responded publicly with the kind of anger many players might show if they believed they were being treated unfairly. She has remained remarkably composed, consistently redirecting questions toward basketball, team success, and the importance of winning. Her restraint makes the criticism surrounding her look even more unreasonable. She is not demanding awards, creating excuses, or insisting that people give her more credit. She continues playing and allows her performance to make the argument, yet those numbers apparently are still not loud enough to place her inside a top 5 that many observers believe she has clearly earned. Whenever the conversation returns to the snub, Clark moves it back toward her teammates, the next game, and the work required to win. That is precisely why her supporters have become so protective. She is not campaigning for herself, so the people watching feel compelled to speak on her behalf.
We'll say, Caitlin Clark is 24. She is a shining star in the galaxy of the WNBA. But I do think as she continues to matriculate through this league, there's room for a little bit more accountability and self-awareness in terms of her role in the larger sisterhood, if she sees it that way, in the WNBA. But Malika, I agree with her 100%. It is certainly exhausting for all of us who really want to celebrate where this league is and the beautiful basketball that is being played. This larger discourse that can be very disappointing.
Yeah, and I think that we all have a responsibility in seeing where we fit in that discourse, and what we are working to do on this show is focus in right there on the game that we all love so very much, and that's what we're going to do over the course of this.
Now, keep in mind, y'all, this came directly after Caitlin Clark did her interviews speaking on the people that get on TV and say stuff like this. This came right after that. And then Doofus gets up there and says this, a bunch of malarkey, continuing to carry on the exact same things Caitlin was talking about. And then people talking about...
This is where the people pushing dismissive narratives begin getting exposed. The criticism is no longer limited to angry replies from fans. Analysts are now being corrected in real time as viewers post complete box scores, advanced statistics, and direct comparisons beneath their comments. Someone can minimize Clark's season on television, and within an hour a graphic is circulating that shows exactly why the argument fails. Several years ago, a misleading claim might have survived for days before anyone gathered enough information to challenge it. Now, fans can create a detailed comparison almost immediately, tag the person responsible, and place the evidence directly beside the original statement for everyone to examine. That instant accountability is one reason these narratives are beginning to collapse. Convincing an entire fan base to ignore reality becomes much more difficult when the full statistical record is available with a single tap.
I made this post before, but I'll say it again. America, we gotta do better when it comes to Caitlin Clark, period. Especially the media. We're the only country that disrespects Caitlin Clark the way we do. Or they try to vicariously use her for certain agendas, both left and right. And it's kind of ridiculous, man. Check this out. This lady's from Asia.
That's pretty incredible. You're still playing basketball at 70 years old.
I'm big fans from China.
China, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I follow your game, every game. I really
appreciate
like
it.
you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So I'm 71 years old.
Yeah.
But I'm still playing.
Really?
Yeah, still playing.
Incredible.
I just want to ask you, when you about 17 years, you still play?
Oh, just for fun, probably. Hopefully
Maybe,
I'm watching the WNBA and it's completely taken off, but I'm hoping to get to China in hopefully December and January. I'm really excited about that, and that should be really fun, but that's pretty incredible. You're still playing basketball at 70 years old. I don't know if my body will be able to hold up when I'm at age 70. Maybe like water basketball or something like that. A little easier on your body.
Thank you. 哈哈，这么近接触他，眼地也这么近，我真的太兴奋了。
So what happens from here? The league has a player competing at a level that would usually guarantee a place inside the top 5 MVP discussion. Yet she continues being removed from the rankings while analysts search for explanations that do not match the basketball being played. Perhaps those explanations will eventually become clearer, but the statistics are already publicly available to anyone willing to examine them honestly. A growing number of people are now doing exactly that, and what they are discovering is making them increasingly uncomfortable with the official conversation.
Let's call her Compelling Argument Clark, because she's starting to put together a compelling argument for league MVP. Caitlin Clark is playing at a higher level than any other player in the WNBA. She's now hitting those deep threes consistently, and the Fever have the best offense in league history with her at the helm. She has figured it all out. Things have slowed down. She's playing within herself because she's shooting a career high from the floor, a career high from three. If she keeps up this run, if it keeps going in that direction, the MVP case only gets stronger. You have to mention her. Now, when you're talking about WNBA MVP, none of the arguments against her work anymore. She is on another level. As a great philosopher once said, there's levels to this, and Caitlin Clark is way up here.
The detail that continues bothering people is that this story has grown beyond a single MVP ladder, or one questionable television segment. It reflects a repeated pattern that appears whenever Clark creates a case too powerful to dismiss. Instead of allowing the discussion to center on what she achieved, the conversation immediately shifts toward finding reasons her accomplishment should matter less. Until that approach changes, this will not be the final time people ask how she can possibly remain outside the top 5 after another dominant performance. Eventually, the league and the analysts shaping these rankings will need to address the issue directly because the backlash is not disappearing by itself. Fans are saving the rankings, documenting the statements, and keeping every statistical comparison. The only remaining question is whether the people responsible for these decisions will acknowledge reality before the season finishes, or double down and guarantee that the exact same controversy returns next year.